I'm joined for the next few minutes anyway by Bob Seely, Conservative Party candidate in this election. Good afternoon to you.
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon to your listeners.
We've been talking about special educational needs today in light of a question to Keir Starmer earlier on today. I know that the Conservatives have committed to 200 new special educational needs schools. What about provision in the mainstream? Is it something that comes up from your constituents?
Yeah, it's a really good question because actually the island has quite a high number of kids, and in fact we are one of the places that have got a new SEND school promised, and we're looking forward to that. And that's going to be for 70 pupils, and is really much needed. You're absolutely right to raise the question of wider issues, and I try to have at least a round table with people engaged in SEN, so parents and the education experts, every 6 months or so. And the last time we had such a meeting, one of the things that came up was about making sure that schools are as SEN friendly as possible, because not everyone who gets a diagnosis of whatever kind necessarily needs a special school. And in fact, mainstream schools can be really good at dealing with these issues and integrating children, because frankly, the more that children are integrated with each other, the better for everybody. But one of the ways you can do that is, if children are quite autistic, is by thinking about how the space works, how the colours work, how the noise and sounds, what sort of noise and sounds there are in schools.
It's about support as well, though, isn't it? And it's about funding support. I had a call earlier on from a mother who's gone through the mill on this, and she knows her stuff. You know, she was saying that the EHCP plan, you know, the political plan around EHCP that came in under the coalition was kind of left to wither on the vine a bit once the Conservatives were in power on their own. Do you accept that?
No, I don't, because not every child that gets an EHCP statement necessarily needs additional resource. It might just be about the school being mindful of that child's needs.
Yeah.
So that's the first point. It doesn't necessarily come with money, and the idea that it does it is not necessarily
But
helpful.
Some of it does. If you need
sure.
some one-on-one reading or extra interpretation with a person sitting next to you, you've got to pay that person, haven't you?
Absolutely, and also, I mean, in my patch, I was at one of our special schools just the other day, looking at the incredible work that the carers do, and in that school, because of a very high degree of need for some of these children who are very, very severely ill, and sadly, in many cases, you're talking about one-on-one very often for some of the most severe diagnoses.
Can I ask you, away from that topic, thank you for answering some questions on that, because it is what we've been discussing.
And it's hugely important. This is a big issue on the island. I have a lot of dealings with sort of parents whose kids are going through this. So delighted to talk about it. Thank you.
Can I ask you about the campaign more broadly? Rishi Sunak saying this morning, when asked questions on the battle bus today, was asked about Boris Johnson and those letters being sent out in support of certain Conservative candidates. He appeared to be pretty relaxed about it, saying the support of the former Prime Minister, in his words, will make a difference. What difference do you think it will make?
Look, for some voters who love Boris, for some voters who didn't love Boris was quite a Marmite figure. I personally really like Boris, and I thought he was a good egg. Didn't always get it right, and I think we at times, frankly, didn't give him the support that he should have had. But I think for some Reform voters, I think they will be motivated by a Boris video backing local candidates, absolutely, for sure. And if Boris wants to support candidates, he absolutely should feel free to do so. And actually,
you think he'll stop people voting Reform? Is that what you think his magic touch will be?
Possibly. Look, I think I can only go by what I'm seeing on the doorsteps in the Isle of Wight West. There is a Reform voting contingent, and if you knock on the door, I'd say with 1 in 4 of those Reform voters, and I was out in Freshwater and Totland yesterday, which is right over in the west of the island, and with 1 in 4 of those voters, they will say, I'm going to vote Reform come what may, and I don't care about the damage. When you say to 3 out of 4 Reform-minded, or somebody who may have replied to a survey, so I'm thinking about voting Reform, when you say, do you realise that you're going to put in Keir Starmer, or you're going to put in a Corbynite MP here, then they think, really? Okay, then they begin to see that there's a price to pay. When you then discuss the fact that illegal immigration is down 30%, that we're getting legal migration down very significantly, that these are not black and white issues. You can't just turn on and off this overnight, but actually government has to work to provide solutions, and that we need to work harder. But Labour would take us in completely the opposite direction, that actually a lot of the reform vote that I'm finding is very soft. It's people saying, prove you're still worth voting, prove you're still worth us supporting you. And, I defend myself on my record of getting 175 million of additional investment onto the island, my passion for the island, whether it's about getting a better deal on the ferries, and actually about whether government has been delivering, because despite all the noise and the some of the drama around the election, the fact is, we've created 800 jobs a day. Child poverty, pensioner poverty, massively down since the last time Labour in, etc.
Okay, you're going to have to make me read a big list of names now. Thank you very much indeed, Bob Seely, Conservative candidate in the general election. I'm not sure what the left of the Labour Party would think of Keir Starmer being described as a Corbynite. But anyway, the other candidates in Isle of Wight West are as follows. Cameron Palin will represent the Green Party, Ian Pickering, Reform UK, Richard Quigley, Labour Party, Bob Seely, Conservative Party, Nick Stewart, Liberal Democrats, and Rachel Thacker, the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom Party.